Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
You know this one, Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach,
Oh, yeah,
a
classic.
classic. And I think we all have a sense of what it's about, the themes. But I'm really looking forward to
Diving in.
diving in, yeah, and seeing, getting past those initial impressions.
Absolutely. And seeing how relevant it still is today, right?
Yeah,
So much of what Bach explores in this novella, those themes of transcendence and individuality and this relentless pursuit of excellence.
yeah,
Those are things that I think resonate with us just as strongly today as they did when the book was first published.
yeah, absolutely. And what's fascinating to me is this structure of this book. It's broken into these three distinct parts,
Yeah.
almost like three acts of a play, and each one takes us to a different stage in Jonathan's journey.
And each one kind of pushes us to think a little deeper about, what it means to really live a fulfilling life.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning. Right from the start, we meet Jonathan, and he's this seagull who's obsessed with flight.
Yeah, but not just, your average fly around and catch some fish kind of flight.
Right.
This is a seagull who's driven by something deeper.
He doesn't want to just exist.
Yeah,
He wants to push the boundaries of what's possible.
exactly. He's not content with the basic, fly to eat to live routine of his flock.
Yeah, he wants to master the art of flying to perfect his technique to reach speeds that no other gull has even attempted.
Remember those high-speed dives? He practices constantly pushing his limits, risking everything to get it right.
It's like he instinctively knows there's more to life than just surviving.
Absolutely. And that's where the conflict starts, right?
Yeah, the flock represents those societal norms,
Hmm.
valuing conformity and survival above all else.
Yeah, they don't understand Jonathan's passion. They see it as reckless, irresponsible, even dangerous.
Right.
And it's a classic example of how society often resists change even when it promises something better.
Makes me think of all the pioneers and innovators throughout history. The ones who dared to challenge the status quo.
Hmm.
They were often ridiculed or even ostracized for their ideas.
Exactly like the early pioneers of flight.
Right. They were laughed at, dismissed as dreamers.
But they persisted, and ultimately they changed the world.
Yeah. And so we see that same dynamic playing out here with Jonathan and the flock.
The flock's elder even admonishes Jonathan.
Oh, yeah. I remember that part.
He says, life is the unknown and the unknowable, except that we are put into this world to eat, to stay alive as long as we possibly can.
So basically, toe the line, don't rock the boat.
Exactly. Conform or be cast out.
But Jonathan doesn't back down, does he?
No, he passionately argues that there is a higher purpose to life.
Yeah.
He believes that we have a responsibility to explore our potential to push our limits.
I love that line where he says, I don't mind being bone and feathers, Mom.
Yeah.
I just want to know what I can do in the air and what I can't. That's all.
Yeah, that line really gets to the heart of it.
Right. He's not rebelling for the sake of it. He's driven by a deep inner need to understand his own capabilities.
He sees flight not just as a means of survival, but as a metaphor for reaching our full potential,
Yeah.
about pushing the limits of what's possible.
But the flock just doesn't get it. They interpret his passion as recklessness, his thirst for knowledge as a threat.
And ultimately, they cast him out, banishing him to the far cliffs.
It's such a heartbreaking moment, to be rejected by your own kind for simply wanting to be more.
Yeah, it really makes you question, is it always lonely at the forefront of progress?
Is there always a price to pay for daring to be different?
It's definitely a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
On one hand, it's painful to be ostracized, to lose that sense of belonging, but on the other hand,
Yeah.
it can be liberating to be free from the judgment of those who don't understand you.
So he's alone, but he's free to pursue his passion without constraints.
And that's exactly what he does.
Yeah. He spends his days soaring higher, perfecting his techniques, discovering new possibilities in flight. It's like he's entered a state of flow, completely absorbed in the joy of pushing his limits.
And it's in this solitary pursuit that he begins to achieve truly remarkable feats. He learns to fly at incredible speeds.
Like breaking the sound barrier.
Yeah, he discovers new ways to harness the wind, to maneuver with precision and grace that no other gull has ever imagined.
So it's like his exile is actually a catalyst for something extraordinary.
It is. He's pushing the boundaries of what's possible in flight, and in doing so, he's opening himself up to a whole new world of understanding.
And that's where we'll leave Jonathan for now, but his story is far from over.
Oh no, this is just the beginning.
Stay tuned to find out what happens when a bird, who's always pushing boundaries, literally reaches a new horizon.
Things are about to get really interesting.
Oh yeah. Last we left Jonathan, he was, out on his own, but kind of hitting his stride.
Yeah, free from the flock's limitations, really starting to explore his true potential.
And then it's like the story shifts gears.
It does almost like he's entering a whole new dimension.
Yeah, he meets these two radiant gulls, and they guide him to this place that he initially thinks is heaven.
Which is interesting, right? Because it raises questions about, what does heaven represent in this context?
Right. Is it a literal place, or is it more of a state of being?
I think it's open to interpretation, but I tend to lean towards the latter.
Yeah.
It's about reaching a higher level of consciousness.
And it's fascinating that this heaven is populated by gulls who are just as dedicated to flight as Jonathan is.
Yeah, they've all chosen to leave the ordinary flock behind to pursue this higher purpose.
So he's finally found a community of like-minded individuals.
But it's not like he just stops learning there.
Right, because even among these seemingly perfect birds, there's an understanding that mastery is an ongoing process.
Yeah, it's not about reaching a destination, it's about the journey itself.
And that's where Chiang comes in, right? This wise elder gull who becomes Jonathan's mentor.
Chiang is like the embodiment of wisdom and experience.
He introduces Jonathan to this concept of thought speed flight.
Which is probably one of the most intriguing and debated aspects of the book.
Yeah, I've always been curious about this part. Like, what is thought speed flight really? Is it just a metaphor? Or is Bach suggesting that we can literally transcend physical limitations with our minds?
Well, Chiang explains that heaven is being perfect, and to achieve perfect speed, you must begin by knowing that you have already arrived.
So it's not about physical speed, it's about a shift in consciousness.
Exactly. It's about letting go of our perceived limitations and embracing our true potential.
Makes me think of the power of visualization. You know how athletes and performers use mental imagery to achieve peak performance?
Absolutely. It's about aligning our thoughts, beliefs, and actions with our goals.
So basically, if you can conceive it, you can achieve it.
In a way, yes, but it's not about forcing it or trying to will it into existence.
It's about surrendering to something larger than yourself, trusting in your innate ability.
Exactly. And that's something that Jonathan really struggles with at first.
Yeah, he tries to force his way into thought speed flight, relying on his physical skills.
He wants to control it, but Chiang teaches him that true mastery comes from letting go.
It's like he has to unlearn everything he thought he knew about flying.
In a way, yes. He has to break free from his old patterns of thinking.
And then there's that beautiful moment when he finally gets it.
Oh yeah, when he realizes that he's not limited by his physical body.
He lets go of his doubts and fears, and suddenly he's flying at speeds he never thought possible.
It's a moment of pure transcendence.
But even after achieving this incredible breakthrough, Jonathan still feels drawn back to his original flock.
Which is surprising, right?
Yeah, you'd think he'd be content to stay in this new world with birds who understand him.
It would be the easy choice.
But Jonathan feels this deeper calling. He believes that knowledge must be shared, even with those who might reject it.
He wants to help his old flock break free from their limitations.
Even after they banished him.
It's a testament to his compassion and his unwavering belief in the potential of others.
So he decides to go back. But he doesn't go alone.
No, he takes a few students with him, including Livingston Seagull, who becomes his most promising pupil.
And their return to the flock is marked by this incredible display of aerial acrobatics, something the other gulls have never witnessed before.
It's like a clash of worlds the ordinary versus the extraordinary.
And I can only imagine how the flock reacts to this sudden intrusion of the impossible into their well-ordered lives.
Oh, it's a mix of awe and fear, wonder and resistance.
Yeah, because when you challenge the status quo, you're bound to ruffle some feathers.
Exactly, and that's where things start to get really interesting. Yeah, so Jonathan's back, showing off these incredible skills, but the flock's reaction, it's not exactly a warm welcome, is it?
It's kind of a mixed bag, right? You've got some gulls who are just mesmerized by what they're seeing.
Yeah, they're like, what is this magic?
Right, but then there are others who are threatened by it.
They see Jonathan as a disruptor, a danger to their way of life.
It's like they're saying, don't mess with our traditions.
Yeah, they're clinging to their old beliefs, and they're afraid of what might happen if they let go.
And that fear, it can turn into anger pretty quickly.
Oh, absolutely. We see that in the way they accuse Jonathan of being a devil.
It's like they can't comprehend his abilities, so they demonize him instead.
It's easier to label something as evil than to try to understand it.
But even with all that resistance, there are still some gulls who are drawn to Jonathan's message, right?
Yeah, there are always those who are open to new ideas, who are willing to question the status quo.
And it's those gulls who start to see the real Jonathan.
The one who's not a devil, but a teacher. a guide.
And his students, they're like living proof that his teachings work.
Especially Fletcher. He's really starting to embrace those concepts of thought speed flight and pushing his limits.
But then there's that moment where Fletcher crashes into the cliff.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense scene.
You'd think that would be the end for him. But Jonathan, he does something incredible.
He defies all expectations.
It's like he bends reality itself to save Fletcher.
And that moment, it's like a turning point for some of the gulls.
They start to realize that maybe Jonathan isn't the enemy after all.
Maybe he's actually onto something.
But even after witnessing that miracle, there are still some who refuse to believe.
They're so stuck in their fear and their need for control that they can't see the truth.
It's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to shake them and say, open your eyes.
Yeah, but Jonathan, he realizes that he can't force them to change.
He's done all he can. He's planted the seeds of possibility, and now it's up to them to decide whether or not they'll grow.
And that's a powerful lesson in itself.
Yeah, we can't control other people's beliefs or actions.
All we can do is share our own truth and hope that it resonates.
So Jonathan, he decides to leave, but he doesn't abandon the flock entirely.
No, he passes the torch to Fletcher.
He tells him to find the real, unlimited Fletcher Seagull within himself.
It's a beautiful message about self-discovery and the importance of inner guidance.
Like he's saying you have everything you need within you to continue this journey.
Yeah, and Fletcher, he steps up to the challenge. He starts teaching the other gulls, sharing the knowledge that Jonathan has given him.
It's like a ripple effect.
Exactly, and it shows that even the smallest act of courage can have a profound impact.
So Jonathan Livingston Seagull, it's more than just a story about a bird who loves to fly.
It's a story about the power of individuality, the importance of questioning the status quo, and the transformative potential of self-belief.
It's about pushing beyond our perceived limitations and embracing the freedom that comes with knowing that we are all unlimited.
And that's a message that I think will always be relevant.
Absolutely. It's a timeless tale that continues to inspire generations of readers to soar to new heights, both literally and figuratively.
Yeah, and it reminds us that the journey of self-discovery is never truly over.
There's always more to learn, more to experience, more to become.
So keep pushing those boundaries, keep exploring, keep soaring.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep those wings spread wide and never stop searching for your own perfect flight.